Video games are full of useful features and things that, make sense, but there's also stuff that they do that we hate. Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on gameranx, 10 things we wish games would just stop doing. Starting off at number 10, it's cursor-based menus. So who came up with this one? So many games have cursor-based menus now. It's practically the new normal. Destiny probably popularized it, or at least made it okay. And by okay, I mean excused it rather than actually made it okay. But basically any game with a similar loot system seems to want to copy it. Cyberpunk has it, Gotham Knights has it, Hogwarts Legacy, all 3 recent Assassin's Creed games. It's an endless list. Instead of being basically selection-based, where you scroll through a list of choices, these menus try to emulate the PC experience, which when you're on a PC makes sense. But if you're on a controller on a console, why? It's really, really annoying. And games could easily get by with a hybrid system that's faster to navigate or just create something with less clutter. But so many games just go with the basic copy Destiny design decisions. And it sucks. And that's, I think, really what bugs people about cursor-based menus. They just take longer to get through than a normal one. I mean, again, unless you're on a mouse on a PC, you have no way to immediately go to the menu item you want. In games where there's no fast way to open up the map or inventory screen, you gotta pass through multiple tabs to get to the thing that you actually want, and it's not fast. It really only amounts to a few extra seconds each time. Yeah, I know. But let's say you're checking the map multiple times in an hour, or, trying to locate a precise coordinate. It's a lot of time that's potentially wasted. I mean, I can see the appeal of cursor-based menus for developers. You don't have to design 2 separate menus for PC and console players, but hey, there's actually also people who play with controllers on PC as well. Make it so that it doesn't suck for everybody who plays your game, maybe. At number 9, loads of pointless loot. I just said it, pointless. And oddly enough, almost every game that has the annoying cursor-based menus also has this problem. You play any major AAA hybrid action RPG, they're gonna go loot crazy, and not all of it is gonna matter. I'm not talking about games like Elden Ring, though, where there is a lot of worthless junk you can pick up, but it doesn't really get in the way. I'm more talking about games like Wo Long, where the amount of loot you get starts to be an active detriment to the fun factor. Any game that loads you up with loot that you have to constantly fret over, where each new piece of gear gets you slight stat increases and they seem almost inconsequential, but they're necessary to keep up with because there's a difficulty curve that's dependent on it. You know what I mean. Hogwarts Legacy, Gotham Knights, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, Avengers. Some of the games are good, some of them aren't, but they're all games where you're getting equipment that slightly increases your overall power level, so you're constantly switching stuff out. For most players, you're not going to space out and pick whatever makes the overall number goes up, because actually looking at all these numbers is just an exercise in futility. Most of it's meaningless anyway. I mean, does 22% melee damage on Batman-infused enemies actually make a difference? Does it make sense? Do I know exactly what that means? No! There's just too many things in that sentence. And that's actually kind of mild. Some of these games get much worse than that. At least in games like Hogwarts Legacy, the pointless junk at least kind of gives you new cosmetic choices for your character. But in something like Avengers, where a lot of things feel very pointless, this feels even more pointless because the loot is pure numbers. They don't change your numbers at all. They're just another layer of annoying busy work. And they try to keep players engaged because, the game's as a service model. We made a video about that. Go back and look at it. It's a good one. It was from March 15th. I think that if you didn't watch it, it's one you would enjoy. At number 8 is forced walking sections. If you're playing a modern AAA title, you know that the walking section is just a fact of life. It's something we've all come to expect, and to a certain extent, totally accept from these games. Just part of the deal, That doesn't mean it's not annoying, though. Obviously, I'm big on story-based games. And in fact, I'm mostly okay with these moments. Characters are walking and talking. It's a slightly interactive cutscene, but if you're gonna put these sections in your games, man, it'd be great if it was skippable. Because that's what these sections are. They're pretty much cutscenes. In previous generations, forced walking sections were more about masking loading screens, so it made sense. But now there's really just not an excuse to make it so you can skip these parts. When you're playing a game for the first time and you're immersed in the story, yeah, obviously, it's good. I'm gonna play along. I want to know what's going on. But when you're playing it again for achievements or to challenge yourself on a harder difficulty setting or something, it's a big no. I don't want to walk through these areas. They break the flow and they're tedious. Yes, there's gonna be times I do want to experience the story again, but to make it so you can skip them is the ideal here. And from time to time, there's a rare game that does it, it, but it's often pretty inconsistent, even in those games, what they consider to be a cutscene and what isn't. Most games let you skip unplayable cutscenes, but the line between cutscene and gameplay is getting blurrier. So I think game devs need to make it so that stuff that is technically playable but is really a cutscene could be skippable. At number 7 is when there's no manual saving, one autosave, and no mission select. So if there's one thing a gamer should be made to feel secure about, it's their save file. More and more games that normally wouldn't have had a manual save function, they have them now, but there's still way too many games that don't let you create backup saves or only ever keep at most one autosave, so you don't get the ability to load previous levels and you can't replay missions. A perfect example of this in a recent game is High on Life. Even though it's a game that's mission-based, it doesn't let you make saves or replay missions or anything like that, so if you miss something optional, you're just SOL. And even games that do let you save can be pretty weirdly restrictive and limit the amount of times. Sometimes you get plenty of space to make separate save files, and sometimes it's not like that. Like Red Dead Redemption, where you got three total save slots, and that's it. At least that game lets you replay missions if you want, though. Most open world games aren't that generous. Even though so many of these games are like 50-hour-long monstrosities, if you want to see something again, search for a collectible, complete an achievement, all you can really do is start the game over. From what I've seen, creating a proper save system isn't an easy task for games. I distinctly remember the first 2 Shadowrun episodes having only autosaves at first because the developers didn't have the money or time to implement a proper save system, but they did eventually add one in later. Now, not every game needs a full-blown rewind feature like that dumb Alone in the Dark game, but hey, give us some options. And number 6 is forced openings where you can't access the menu. Most of the time when you boot up a game for the first time, it just throws you into the main menu. But certain times, games like to get clever and start with this forced opening where they throw you right into the game. In theory, it's a good idea, but if you're primarily a PC player, you know exactly what the problem with that is. If you've ever played a game on the computer, you know that you have to go into the settings and fix something because something isn't going to be right for your setup. And that's not a flaw. That's inherent in the fact that pretty much every PC gaming setup is slightly different from some other one. So if a game starts off immediately, you have no way to access these options, and it's pretty damn annoying. A recent example is Hard Space Shipbreaker, a pretty cool space salvaging game, but when you boot it up for the first time, the game just starts. In my case, all the settings were screwed up. It took about 10 minutes before I could actually go in and fix it too. The start of the game should be something that makes the best impression possible, because first impressions of a game that are annoying and stressful rather than immersive, and yeah, these forced openings are supposed to be immersive in some way. They're just annoying. I guess on consoles they can be fine because they're set up for that console, but on PC, wow, they're bad. At number 5, making you use fan wikis for essential information. Sometimes it feels like understanding games is homework. Sure, everyone hates overly hand-holdy tutorials, and we've talked about that to the death in the past, but if anything, the opposite is kind of worse. Just to be clear, I'm not talking about games where you have to look online to figure out stuff that's supposed to be secret or things that any person could theoretically figure out for themselves. I'm talking about things about the game that it just straight up doesn't tell you how it works, or worse, it lies. I mean, we have a whole series of videos on this channel called 10 Things Blank Game Doesn't Tell You. From a content perspective, I don't want them to start telling you. I like making those videos. But from a player perspective, well, let's just say my opinion's a little different. Team Ninja games are terrible about this. These games are filled to the brim with stat-modifying equipment where the actual descriptions are misleading or just nonsense, gobbledygook. Like, take this relatively simple example from Wo Long Fallen Dynasty. Certain equipment says it enhances deflect difficulty, which sounds like it means it increases the deflect timer, right? No, it just makes it so you use less spirit, aka stamina, when you deflect. Oh, of course, how could I not know that? Other games are actually worse, like Call of Duty, where they just notoriously lie to you about weapon stats sometimes. You know how when you look at a gun and it shows you a graph at its various strengths and weaknesses, sometimes they can be relatively accurate, but other times they are not. They're completely off. And like, to the point where it's not even close. So the only way to find out how good a weapon actually is, you know, to look it up online. And it's not as if fan wikis don't have their own problems. Unless the game has a rabid fan base, expect the information to be outdated or just not there. And to think, all you had to do is get all of that no information was to wade through a dozen ads, auto-playing videos. Will the wonders of the internet never cease? And number 4 is tacked on and frustrating crafting systems. Here it is, the final piece of the AAA trifecta of annoying features. There's the cursor menus, the endless loot, and now this, the annoying crafting system. Every game's gotta have it, and depending on the game, it can either be really frustrating and fiddly, it could be a tacked on but ultimately necessary distraction, or in the rare case, a actually kind of positive addition to the game. Crafting systems that don't add to the experience need to just stop, but if a game absolutely has to have some kind of crafting in it, at least make it relatively fun. By far the most annoying thing about crafting games, at least to me, is when you have an entire crafting tree or a track that stops dead because you're missing 1 or 2 random items. Any sort of Monster Hunter style game is really brutal about this. Crafting is 100% essential in these games because there's no traditional leveling up. Your equipment alone is what makes you stronger, but if you're missing some random doodad, then sorry, no improved weapon for you. Things are the same as the last mission. Oops. I get why they do it, that's the core gameplay there, but at least tell us where to find this stuff. Either make it so you can use multiple things to craft, or make all the crafting ingredients mostly generic and fairly common. Or give us a friggin' map, like anything. I know it's too late to think that any developer could just leave out crafting entirely, but if you have to include it, at least make it relatively easy to deal with. And number 3 is annoying daily and weekly objectives in multiplayer games. Again, see the video from March 15th about why people don't like live service games, but for me, the really annoying part of progression systems in multiplayer games are the now industry standard dailies and weekly objectives. Depending on the game, these are fine, they can be okay, like they get you some bonus experience for doing something you might already do anyway, or try to push players to try out something different, a different mode, a style, etc. At that basic level, it's fine. But like, we wouldn't be talking about it if it just stayed at that basic level, would we? Like, often they get really hyper specific and encourage players to act counter to the way the game is normally, and that's a problem. Like, I remember Halo Infinite multiplayer at launch being really lousy with really dumb annoying daily objectives, while at the same time being really stingy about resets. In a more focused team-based multiplayer game like Halo, these things cause more problems than anything else. You have team members doing really stupid crap, getting themselves killed, just to complete some random objective that does not support the team in any way. It makes the gameplay suffer pretty bad, actually. In larger, more sandboxy multiplayer games, these kinds of things are maybe a little less egregious. But for everything else, unless they're basic stuff that you do, like join 5 games or get 10 kills, they really just have no place in competitive multiplayer team games. And number 2 is online-only requirements for primarily single-player games. This one's just really tough to excuse. Like, it's a widespread problem in a lot of different types of games, including games that have literally no online component. And yeah, it's unlikely that most people won't have internet access, but there's just no reason why games that are mostly single-player need an online connection to play them. There's none. The thing that really bugs me about this is that they're on life support the second they come out. Whenever the developer publisher feels like they want to pull the plug, that's it. No more game. Recently, Redfall got a lot of flack for its online-only requirement, so much that the studio's trying to remove it, and good on them for doing so. But the big question is, why was it online only in the first place? It's a game that does seem to support co-op, but they've always made it clear that it is a single-player game. Gran Turismo 7 is another annoying example. In this case, online because of microtransactions. Even though most people are going to play Gran Turismo solo, you have to be online to access the store. They want you to keep playing, and the limit in the amount of in-game money is a way to push microtransactions. Diablo 4 is another online-only game coming out soon that most people are probably just going to play solo, so why would I want to have to deal with lag and queues if I'm playing a game by myself? What is the point of that? Like, why? What is that? It's super, super annoying. Every game should have some kind of totally offline option if the game doesn't need to be online. And that's even if only the game can still be played when the servers inevitably go dark. They're gonna, so maybe even add it in as like a feature during wind down. I don't know. I don't care. Like, it's stupid. This is dumb. And finally, at number 1, no pause button. Now, if you're playing an online game, duh. That's not what I'm talking about. There are a ton of games now that just don't let you pause at all for no reason whatsoever. A lot of them do have online modes or interactions, like all the Souls games incorporate some form of online interaction with the main game. But here's the thing, you can still play them offline where none of that's going to matter, and it still doesn't let you pause. I know for some games the inability to pause is meant to be part of the challenge, but is it really so much to ask to give us the option if it's absolutely necessary? I know I've kind of unfairly singled singled out Wo Long in this video on some things. But in this entry, I gotta give it props. It's one of the few Souls-like games that does have invading and multiplayer co-op, and everything that you would think would make it so that they're not gonna let you pause the game, but they let you pause the damn game. It's one of the only one of these types of games where if I really need to pee, I don't have to have one of those disposable urinal bags that truckers keep on hand so they can make good time. It can't be that hard to implement, can it? I mean, games have had pause screens for almost as long as there have been games, right? You know why most people call the start button the pause button? Because people have gotten used to being able to pause the game with that button. So what is the excuse for the modern games? They think they're too good for pausing? Like, sometimes emergencies happen. I don't know about you, but I'd rather not die just because I had to get up. It's like seeing a movie. Yeah, it makes sense that they're not going to pause the big screen for you when you have to get up to pee in the middle of the film. But when you're home alone, no one else is relying on it, you're playing a single-player game, you should be able to pause the damn thing. And that's all for today. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. If you like this video, click like. If you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week. Best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription, so click subscribe. Don't forget to enable notifications. And as always, thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter, Falcon the Hero. We'll see you next time right here on Gameranx.